We are back at Coca-Cola Plaza. Remember this place? And today I've returned here, even though it can be a bit of a noisy and confusing spot to navigate, because it's actually a major intersection between the existing tram lines in the city. I wanted to point out that you may remember from a previous video, outside of Fat Margaret's hostel, from the stop called Linnahall, it was possible to take a tram all the way to Cadreorg Palace Gardens. And although I walked it, that was an option, and it might be an option for anybody else, as it's otherwise about a, I guess, maybe 30-minute walk or so. However, it's also useful if you're wanting to use the tram service, if you're coming from the airport, because you can get on tram number 4 right outside the airport, pay just a couple of euros, and it will bring you along this route. It may be that where you're staying, oh, there conveniently is a number 4 tram heading to Tondi. So if your ultimate destination is Tondi, stay on the tram. Otherwise, you might want to get off here at the Hobujaama junction. And here you can then transfer straight onto, for example, tram number 1 or tram number 2, which would take you in that direction if you happen to be staying at Fat Margaret's. There's a lovely little tram going to Cadreorg. It's also useful as a starting point for today's walk, because I wanted to take in a couple of things we haven't yet seen. And in one case, a little bit of a different attraction. We're walking away from the old town, that's to the back of us, and we're heading along this rather grim street. And it's no surprise, every city's major transport hub is going to be in a pretty grim looking location, isn't it? We're on Nava Manti, just to help get our bearings. And like I say, tram number 4 from here would take you straight up to the airport. Alternatively, you could jump on tram number 2, which is, there's one straight ahead of us, just turning round to the right. And that one would take you all the way up to the international bus terminal, which is the same bus station which you would use to access buses going to Narva, Haapsalu, Saaremaa, Pärnu, Tartu, and most other towns at a distance from Tallinn itself. We're going to follow the tram lines, which is usually a piece of good advice, I think, when I'm walking anywhere. Because for one thing, if you follow the tram lines, not only can you jump on a tram if you need to, it will ultimately, if you get on the tram going backward to where you came from, take you to where you've just been. So you can get home, so to speak, relatively quickly. If either a storm comes along or some other disaster befalls you, if you turn an ankle or you realise you've left the accommodation without your wallet or purse. But that's not exactly the reason why I'm following the tram line today. Oh, here's one of those second-hand clothing charity shops, Humana. And I'm guessing, not because I understand the words quick cowbad, but by that minus 50% sign, all the second-hand items, I guess, are at half price today in there. Not looking for second-hand clothes or shoes, or hats or coats, or sleeping bags or anything else they might have in there. Not on this occasion. I'm going to walk up Maneasy Street, which is a nice, easy name to remember. Maneasy. I'm hoping, once again, to locate some street art, which I believe I saw on a prior visit to Tallinn. And I know this can be a little bit of a dangerous game to play, because just by its nature, street art is likely to become redundant in the mind of some and either whitewashed over or perhaps changed by the same or another artist who wishes to express themselves on the same side of a building. I'm waiting for my nose to start twitching to tell me, yes, recognition. The twitch of recognition, but I'm not getting it immediately. It's definitely going to be on the left from here. Was it on the back of that flower shop over there? It looks a likely spot, but I then asked myself, why was I sneaking around the back of a flower shop if that was the case? Definitely not round the back of that flower shop, I don't think. So I shall carry on. This street is Gonsiori. It sounds a little bit Italian, doesn't it? And right on cue, there is Dodo Pizza on the other side of the road. A pizzeria on Gonsiori Street. I wonder if Gonsiori was an Italian statesman of some kind. Another number 4 tram, so it's good to see actually. You can get an idea. Oh, I've just seen what I was looking for. I'll finish what I was saying about the number 4 tram. You get a good idea. There was 2 in, what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes? For that connection to the airport or coming from the airport, very nice to see there are plenty of number 4 trams. And I'll put you out of your agony and put myself out of my misery by coming over here, and there it was. For some reason I thought it was a bit more tucked away than it is, but I'm very happy to see it again here on the very edge of Tartu-Manti Street. We've got a bear, a moose in a small, what can you call it? A small bit of garden. Can't call it a forest scene, but this garden is growing on the back of a giant warty old hog, and that hog has got a smiling, very smiling dog sat on his head between his ears. Just noticed down in the bottom left hand corner there's something called Art Urbano, Nuevo Art Urbano Mextonia Festival. Maybe quite a few years ago, that festival took place, and as a part of that, somebody who may or may not be called Notar and Saba presented Tallinn with this attractive piece of artwork, which certainly brightens up an otherwise extremely drab building, just plonked in between some extremely drab looking buildings either side. So thank you to whoever produced that, very grateful. And it's not out of our way at all to just catch a glimpse of that nice piece of art, because we're now continuing with the tram line. Helps me not get lost as well, because I did double check the tram lines and streets before setting out this morning. Can't quite get a good reflection of myself, although perhaps that's just as well. Well, there's something if you're particularly keen on blue and black glass or plastic. There must be somebody out there who thinks, yeah, that will look nice when I put it up on the side of a building. I can't imagine who. And if they were in any doubt, surely when they saw that they were actually going to put these large greenhouses in the city centre right next to a very old historic looking Russian Orthodox church, well, who knows what they were thinking. But all I can say is let's be grateful that the wooden Russian Orthodox church here on Tartu Manti survived. It certainly adds a lot of warmth. I'm not a religious man myself, but just seeing the terracotta roof tiles and the wooden clock tower, or bell tower, not sure if there's a clock up there, possibly not. And it's even preserved some of its little walled garden to a certain extent, maybe. I hesitate to say that with any conviction because I see actually, yes, the preserved walls this side and then we've got a car park on the other side. But nonetheless, as I say, let's be thankful the little wooden church survived. Oh, it's a karaoke bar, I think. Coco Loco. Bit out of the way for the average tourist, unless for some reason you are staying well away from the old town scene. And we come out here to another junction of busy roads, and it is kind of on purpose, and again it's not going to be to everyone's taste, but something quite different. Very large mid-20th century construction from the grim days of Soviet oppression. The year 1954 is marked up at the top. That presumably is the date of its construction. And for people who appreciate this style of architecture, I'm sure they'll delight in it as well. But good to have a mix, that's what I say. I'm not going to condemn the blue and black plastic fronted skyscrapers to a wrecking ball. I might like the idea, but you know, you've got to live with each other's thoughts and passions and interests, and for some people that will be cutting edge modern architecture of the finest type, I suppose. So there's room enough even in little Tallinn for such adventurous architecture. Over there is the Stockman shopping mall. You're probably not hearing a word I say with this traffic, but anyway, I'll say it again, the Stockman shopping mall. Slightly pricier, perhaps, than your average Rimi supermarket, but it does house some eateries if you're looking for a My Sushi. And there's a Katarintal cafe and bakery inside, as well as many other shopping outlets and some rooftop space as well. Nice looking church up there by the look of it. A lot of construction work going on, but we're not going up there. We're going to cross the road here. We cross the road, and just on the left-hand side, a second Hobujaama second-hand clothing store of the day. Again, this one appears to have a 50% off sign. If the prices are half what they were yesterday, might be a bargain. I have to say that's a very, very handsome teal, is it called teal? Pale teal? Sea green gentleman's jacket. Gosh, if I lived a normal lifestyle and possessed a wardrobe and a room in which to house the wardrobe, and I had a bit better physique, then I would be in for that jacket. Isn't that fantastic? Anyway, try not to get distracted. It was at the back of my mind, I have to admit, even though there's absolutely nothing I want or need. If I had seen that today, just by chance, it happened to be a everything in the shop for €1 day, I possibly would have popped into this Hobujaama, because it is the one which allegedly specializes in vintage clothing, and that seems to be more likely to have that particular, I don't know, glasses case or hat or satchel or item of clothing or shoes which may not appear in any of the other Hobujaama outlets. They might all be those type of vintage items, I suppose, are channeled towards this store. What else have we got here? We've got a body huldus group, whatever that is, a glow house, oh, and a pole dance shop, and Stratos Vapor. Oh, two curious looking white, partially clad female figures up there. I'm guessing that might be the pole dance shop, but let's move on, shall we? Now, the tricky bit is, having made a slight detour to come this way on this side of the road, I now want to double back on myself, go back 50 meters and get to the crossing again, because the next little point of interest, I think it's a point of interest, is just facing the Hobujaama shop, but over this busy road. So I'll meet you over there. And now we're over here, the traffic doesn't seem to be any less noisy. But there's the Hobujaama shop we were just looking at over the road. And directly across, facing it, is this little place. Nuri Kasikovic. It's a cat cafe. Oh, there we are. Here is an example of a cat. And some images of cats arching their backs upon the wall. Let's see if there are any other cats who are just hanging out, sitting on stools. And sadly, they must have heard I was coming, or maybe they could smell me coming. Ah, that's a little bit better now, isn't it? Here we have Gingerbread in the window, but Gingerbread's got their back turned to me, so that's unfortunate. But for people who do like the idea of just kicking back for a while in the middle of the very busy and noisy, otherwise unattractive part of central Tallinn, the modern city, they can pop in here to the cat cafe and unwind with, hopefully, this is more like it, 2 more kitty cats purring away and preening themselves. I think there are some ground rules about these places, things like you have to wait for the cat to approach you rather than just think, oh, there's a cat, it'd be nice to stroke a cat, and just relax and get me in the mood to sit down on one of these metal chairs and enjoy a hot drink and perhaps a slice of cake. Not sure about that rule, not 100%, but just something worth bearing in mind. Check before you go rushing towards where the cats are hanging out. I do know that a lady adopted at least one cat from here recently. It could be that it's not only beneficial for the visitors to meet the cats and vice versa, but it may be that it's also sometimes a way of cats who've otherwise only got cat shelters to look forward to finding themselves a permanent home. While that cat decides to practice playing the violin, I think I'd better leave without being any more of a voyeur. But this is the place, Nuri Kasikovic. And if you're walking back from Kadriorg on almost a parallel street over there, it could be that when you reach this point, you might want to take a sharp left, head up towards Stockman, and pop in here to have your afternoon tea. Just a thought. Something a little bit different. I'm more of a dog person myself, but I wouldn't be adverse to going into a cat cafe. I'm just wondering what that partially hidden image is on the side of the brown fronted building just above the tree line. Seems to be the outline of a bird and more small birds on a line. Oh, 2 or 3 lines. Oh, the big bird is perched on a piece of barbed wire. And, well, it's a little adding a little bit of colour to the side of the building, I suppose. Looks as though the work's not being completed, though, for some reason. Now, I see next to Scala City Posti, a little bit further along the street on the opposite side to us, another piece of artwork, maybe the same artist. Makes me think perhaps it could be, because it does feature a bird in the design with some geometric shapes. A few more colours, that's a bit more like it. Again, there's a suggestion of incompletion to me, but it's just my eye. I really wasn't expecting this, but as far as things like this are concerned, anything's a bonus, so that's nice to see. There I was, walking up a little street, distracted slightly by the sight of a large Doberman on a leash being put through his walking etiquette procedures. The dog's mistress was just reminding him from time to time when he should stop on command, sit on command, start to walk again, etc. And I found myself, yes, sort of continuing and thinking, the Doberman I've passed about 50 yards back, and I'm now entering sort of no man's land. And I came up to this junction through this little path here, just glimpsed at the corner of my eye while I was looking around at all the otherwise unattractive scenery. Very nice colourful mural. Piritus 2019 it says here, so when you think, my goodness, it's been up a few years already and it could have been painted yesterday. Look how those colours have been maintained. Perhaps Piritus pops back every summer just to touch it up here and there, I'm not sure. Apparently I'm on a street called Ukentali. You can hardly believe it, but it's true, and it's here. There isn't more round the corner, is there? No, just more of the grey, the ugly and the grim. But this was a nice surprise, I must say. Thank you very much, Piritus, whoever you are. Very much appreciate seeing that on my walk. And I wasn't entirely lost because I did have an idea that, okay, I'm walking in the vicinity of the Russian outdoor food market, another one, not the big one which used to be but is no more, at Hobujaama at the train station. But there's another one here which still exists. Sole traders selling bits and pieces of fruit and vegetables. But yes, I thought I might encounter that, but I think I passed it, left it behind me somewhere. And now I've got an idea. I'm pretty much approaching the main bus station, I think. So I thought to myself, while I was just walking around back there, before I found the mural, I can always turn left when this road comes to a halt, and so that's what I'm doing. The mural was a bonus, and I guess this will give you an idea, or perhaps not, of how far the bus station is from the old town. It's probably, I would say, again, depending precisely where you're staying. Perhaps I'll give Fat Margaret's Hostel as an example, as that's where I've come from this morning. It's a casual 40-minute walk, but obviously once you put a backpack on your back, you might want to just make that a casual 50-minute walk in case it's a hot summer's day, or in case you've got far too much in your backpack and it's weighing you down a bit. But it's a bit tricky because I'm seeing an old vintage bus in the bus station car park. So I really want to cross over the road and get a better view of that, don't I? Before it drives off and escapes me. And here we are, yes, Tallinn Hobujaama. Now this is one of these bugger's muddle of a crossings where you think, oh, I'll go the most convenient way, and then you realise, this part works. This is easy, and then turn left and then turn right. But if you turn left, you then can't turn right. There's no crossing there. So instead, we have to go a roundabout way, but there's a silver lining in this cloud as the sun peeps out behind the cloud. Couldn't have orchestrated that, could I? But what I'm seeing is, in the distance, another little piece of what I think is street art, unless my eyes are failing me. Gosh, that road junction and those traffic lights, boy, I know I do whinge on from time to time about such things, but that's got to be the worst, slowest moving, least convenient for pedestrians. Ugh. An example of a mess. I thought I could see a grasping hand breaking its way through the side of the wall. And it's interesting, and what makes it particularly interesting is this little association here, which amuses me. Art still sucks ass. So I don't know if that is a deliberate piece of self-mockery by the artist, or if somebody else has come along and said, I like this crumbling wall just the way it was, nice and boring, and now you've made it a little bit more colourful and a whole lot more interesting. Either way, I'm thinking I like it. And remember that piece of philosophy for you. Art still sucks ass. Does it? Sometimes, I guess. My interest has been piqued by the presence of what I took to be a very nice vintage bus in the car park. A pretty wildflower growing just on its own. All lonesome in a garden of weeds. Well, I don't know about that message back there on the mural saying that art still sucks ass. I think that reference really applies to this ridiculous road system here. The traffic lights, it just defies belief and logic. 15 minutes later, still waiting for the green man. Bit of an exaggeration when I say 15 minutes. And the traffic that's stopped must look at you and think, well, why aren't you crossing? And I'm looking at the traffic thinking, well, it says red man. And yes, it still says red man. So why aren't you driving your vehicle? And hallelujah. Something's gone wrong with these lights, Tallinn City Council. For goodness sake, sort yourselves out. Not doing any favours to the pedestrians or car drivers. And probably nobody's told them. Everyone's just got used to it and thought, oh yeah, that's a place best to avoid. When actually it perhaps could just be put right if there's a fault in the mechanism, which I imagine there must be. Now here's this, what I'm calling vintage bus. But there's also traffic coming into the car park in from different directions and exiting the car park, so I'd better make sure I'm not being a nuisance myself. Not more of a nuisance than I usually am. Anyway. And here we are, look at this. It's almost worth getting run over for, isn't it? What a doozy. I don't know what this bus is doing here. Oh, I see there are 3 old buses in a line, so they are deliberately here. It's not just one coincidental tour I've picked up on. It's like Tallinn has provided a substitute for a transport museum by stationing these lovely looking old buses right here on the edge of the bus station car park. What a lovely treat again. Completely unexpected. Definitely wasn't here the last time I used the bus station some years back. Okay, I vented my wrath at those traffic lights, the preposterous road junction back there, but now I'm just a little bit wowed and feeling like, gosh, it was worth it. Maybe that's why I was put through that experience, as were the other pedestrians and other people who were driving their vehicles or trying to drive their vehicles through that junction. We were put through that experience because there's a payback. And here it is. Seeing these timeless buses. We've had street art, and now we've got art of a very different form. And it is art, isn't it? Gotta say, this is artistry. What's gone into making these beautiful vehicles. I'm sure the people who used to travel on these, I don't know if they had a sort of let's go to the seaside charabang type day trip culture here in Estonia, like they used to in the UK, for example, back in the, I think, 50s and 60s, maybe 70s, particularly in the Midlands and the north of England. Folks local to Tallinn remember these buses fondly. I wouldn't be at all surprised. I'm surprised myself that they're just perched here. But as surprised as I am, I'm also delighted to see them. The reality may be that they're not as comfortable as one might imagine, particularly as they do go back a bit in time. And they've got a concept on this one of actually people facing one another on the bus, which isn't something you see a lot these days on coaches. So families of 4, for example, could be sat at the back of this one, facing one another, playing cards, chatting, telling the kids stop to fighting in front of your parents and in front of strangers. Oh my word, what a stroke of luck, complete stroke of luck, because I wasn't planning on approaching the bus station from the road that I did, but if I had actually approached it the way I intended to, I would have missed out. We would have missed out on this spectacle of vintage buses. When you arrive at the bus station in Tallinn, here you have all your transport options, including the number 2 tram, the number 4 tram. Number 2 is ideal if you happen to be going to Fat Margaret's Hostel or somewhere in the vicinity of Fat Margaret's Tower. But all the options are laid out here quite clearly. And just to make it even easier, if you go this way and head inside the bus station down here, into the building, and head towards the exit. And for €1.50, you can buy a 1-hour bus or tram ticket for anywhere in the city. Nice and easy. Here we are at the bus station, the main entrance. And you can pick up a tram straight down there, which is where I'll go shortly, but I'm just seeing another sign of that old Mexican themed or Hispanic themed festival of art, which must have taken place in Tallinn at some stage. Because here is again Mextonia Festival. Visit tallinn.ee. Nueve Art Urbano. On the side of an electricity generating building. And yet more colour. I don't know if this is as frustrating For you, as I imagine it might be, I fear it might be, the fact that I get distracted so easily. But I'm sorry, that's just what's liable to happen. Check the road, check the traffic before you cross. When random pieces of street art just appear before my eyes, it's always liable to distract me. Oh, there's handsome. Looks as though there's a bit of rubbish going on either side of the main stag image, but I'm glad the main stag's there looking proud. Nice, eh? And up there, it's quite a clash of architectural features. Not enough to engage my interest, I don't think. Because I'm also wondering about a taxi back here. Bought a taxi, but you're a cheap guy. Hey, you're always saying you're a cheap guy. You're always blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I know I'm a cheap guy, and of course I'm not getting in a taxi, because I get car sick as well, don't I? But with those vintage buses in mind, at the far corner, at the back of the bus station, I'm just seeing this vintage vehicle here, and even though it's parked exactly where the modern day functioning taxis are, it's just dawned on me that this isn't one of them, with the driver missing. This is, it must be, another example of Tallinn City Council, who I keep plugging, don't I, for better or worse, seemingly setting out some memorabilia from the past, some large vehicles which some people may or may not remember. And hopefully, I'm always wary approaching cars, if they're modern, the beeper goes off and somebody shoots me, at least in North America anyway. I don't know if I'm picking up any of the detail of, look at that gear stick. Don't know if you can see that. Beautiful, spotless interior. This taxi was probably never this immaculate. But yeah, what another gorgeous surprise. They seem to enjoy their vintage vehicles in this location at any rate. Now I'm going to go down to that tram stop just to walk you through it. But also it serves my purpose, of course. I'm only pretending to be generous, I'm being selfish as usual. It does serve my purpose to get back on this road. There's no way I don't think you could pay me any amount of money to go through the frustration of that damned series of traffic lights back there. As you can see, it's only 100 meters, I would say. An easy walk for everybody. And if you want to grab a taxi from right outside the bus station, that's your choice. Alternatively, if you're cheap like me, you'll either walk to your accommodation or just come down here to the tram line. Just make sure you get on the tram going in the right direction. Otherwise, you might be in a bit of a pickle. And if you're travelling with Echo Lines, here is the main office of Echo Lines, should you have any ticket inquiries. Otherwise, you'll be buying your tickets online or in the main bus station itself. It's not at all obvious when you arrive in a new city for the first time. Just pointing out at this stage, you want to get on a tram going in that direction. That's right. Going in that direction. Heading west rather than heading east. I see another vintage tram across the road, which I haven't seen before, the yellow one. Very nice indeed. I'm a bit too far away to pick up the detail of it with this little camera, but as we get closer, isn't that nice? I did look up that information about a Tallinn tram museum, you may remember. Yesterday I was thinking about visiting the Tallinn tram museum if it had finally been renovated, but sadly, looking online, it looks as though rather than being renovated, it's been closed down. Given that there's no tram museum to visit, yesterday's disappointment has been replaced with a few old buses, an old car, and that lovely yellow tram back there, which is very nice. So in order to go in the right direction, you cross over both tram lines and you then get your tram from either here or just there, and you go straight down this road, which is what I intend to do now, but I'll do it on foot because I'm not carrying any heavy baggage. I haven't had a very long journey. Still morning here in Tallinn. Grey, cloudy. The sun's struggling to come out, but it's still not bad. I'm just blessed it's not raining. It's perfectly reasonable for a walk.